Hi there. Today I'm going to discuss the position of visionary art within its wider cultural context. And we're going to look at various images that will help us to contextualize the psychedelic perspectives in visionary art in conjunction with the art world, globalism, and popular culture. Now, visionary art is a fantastic medium for translating the mystic or the numinous experience. It communicates the creative power and the transformational potential of the mystical experience to the viewer with great immediacy. And this is based on the idea that there are shared characteristics between the mystical experience and the aesthetic experience, characteristics such as beauty, awe, and creative wonder. And I think the imagination is the medium that intersects and integrates these experiences. And the mainstream art world has considered visionary art role and significance as marginal, as being made by self-taught artists making work with little social relevance. I will contend that its presence is deeply embedded in the historical evolution of art, and its presence and significance are seen across many, many cultures. And these pictures are not of historical visionary art, they are blank, but we will carry on. And that's a shame because they're nice pictures. Okay. So its representations traverse a multitude of movements and artists. And we can see the visionary art form emerging from as far back as the cave paintings of prehistory. We can see them in Aboriginal rock paintings, in Mayan feathered serpents, the Hindu pantheon and Tibetan tankas, and so on. And this kind of art has had a long and intimate relationship with man's sacred experiences. It has communicated archetypal phenomena, and it has embellished myth and ceremonies. And a good example would be, a Shipibo pattern, which is a visual manifestation of a shamanic song. It's a synesthetic phenomena. It intersects shared psychedelic space for the purpose of healing. And it looks quite beautiful. Use your imagination. That's what it's all about. Is it coming? If it doesn't, we just have to...
No, you have to
just do it. Okay. Okay. Huh? You guys have got the imagination. There's a few artists here. Okay. So we can see that the visionary art form is a meaning-making technology, and we can see how it is absorbed into the art of religious institutions to reinforce their ideologies. And the great icon paintings adhered to very conservative codes of representation. And these powerful images were culturally shared constructs rather than individual expressions of divinity. And of course, all this is far removed from our more current and more romantic notion of the artist's visions. Another slide, doesn't work. Forget about it, Stu. Okay. With growing scientific inquiry, a more human-centric approach to art evolved in the post-medieval and Renaissance times, and the focus turned towards objective inquiry, towards mapping the human form and physical space. We get pictorial perspective, we get the ideal human form. And the visionary impulse wasn't quite so prevalent in this time, but however, there was an opening of idiosyncratic artistic perspectives. And this conveyed relational and intimate spaces that I think as a kind of universal resonance. We get this with Rembrandt, would be a classic example of this. Also Michelangelo, who was a mystic artist rather than a religious artist. So into modern art, the innovations in modern art allowed radical new ways of framing the human experience and understanding our world. The artist now had permission to transmit a direct emotional experience via an individual style. And with the discovery of the unconscious, inner worlds opened up, and science was discovering the relativity of all things. And our perceptions of reality were changing enormously, and I think this was expressed in the arts by the emergence of a new subjectivity. The Romantics and the Symbolists revealed the visionary awe and wonder of the human experience, while the Impressionists were dissolving our perception of reality, while the abstract pioneers like Kandinsky were opening the perceptual parameters by shifting art's emphasis away from the material towards the intuitive and contemplative experience. And then the irrational and the imaginal forces were liberated by the surrealists. Okay, so today, individual artistic freedom has approximated to a cultural expression of self-importance. And in our fragmented postmodern world of ideas, however, there is a space for pluralism and cultural relativity. And this space can generate increased global understanding. It has an openness to minority viewpoints. And perhaps from this space, a more revived role for art can be generated. But within artistic autonomy, however, lies a responsibility. The artist can just reflect on or exacerbate the alienation and nihilism in our society, or the artist can indulge in the atomized consumer narratives and the insular intellectual referencing of the art world, or alternatively, the artist can transmit a direct emotional experience that is relational and has collective validity. So drink water. In the 1960s, pity about the slides because there's some good pictures here. In the 1960s, vibrant and enticing art forms emerged that reflected the psychedelic exploration of the times. And this art referenced the uncharted dimensions of mind, and this was way beyond the understanding of institutional art critique. These psychedelic artists were immersed in underground ideas, far from the culturally sanctioned ideas of the art world. And I think they opened an interplay with the deeper areas of popular culture. And I think today's visionary artists have inherited something of this ethos and this sovereign conviction to the creative process. And I think this can also be seen in the voice of street art, for instance, today, with its pictorial sophistication and its social and cultural relevance. There were some pictures of some great street art that referred to ecocide and the dimension of indigenous wisdom. Anyway, so psychedelia, it percolated into all areas of cultural production, from the poster design to fashion to the immersive happenings that later became performance art. And although some of the original psychedelic sensibilities in art, I think, were absorbed into cultural assumptions of what psychedelic art is, sometimes a kind of surrealism or something, and that's trippy. Okay, so, and also, psychedelia percolated into the contemporary art world. We can see it in the art of Yayoi Kusama, who had a wonderful show in the Tate Modern a few years ago. And it also influenced the recent pioneers of visionary art, such as Ernst Fuchs, the great Matti Klarwein, and then Robert Venosa. These psychedelic post-surrealists also inherited their ideas and methods through a time-honored tradition of sacred art. And they also participated directly with the surrealists, but reached beyond surrealism's outrageous liminality to convey the magnitude of the visionary experience in all its multi-dimensional, translucent detail. Use your imagination. But unlike a lot of contemporary art, visionary art's references go beyond the insular cultural timeline of the art world, the parameters. Its content and essence are embedded in the imaginal depths, in the dynamic space between nature and psychic phenomena. It embraces a transrational perspective, an indigenous psychedelic perspective that somehow art is animate, that it stores and it transmits visionary phenomena. In Willis Harman's book, Higher Creativity, he looks at the role of visionary states in art, and he says that art derives, is not made in the ordinary human sense. It comes from deeper spiritual sources. And our eloquent friend Terence McKenna said that it is our thread to the transcendental other. Today, we see a resurgence of visionary art that integrates contemporary perspectives with an inspired worldview, and it draws its influences and ideas from the archive of artistic tradition and symbol systems. And its ideas have percolated in our world of technological connectedness. And we can see it growing and responding to the processes of global transition. And these contemporary visionary artists are aware of the critical nature of the crisis that humanity is facing. And they're also aware that art has catalytic potential, that it can point to our inherent capacity for well-being and development on an individual and a collective level. So, visionary art today embraces co-creativity in a socially conscious way, extending beyond the inner world of the artist to the wider world shared by others around them. And its presentation goes beyond the gallery. It goes to the collaborative mural spaces and the immersive and participatory environments of psychedelic festivals like the Boom and the cutting-edge liminal zones of the Burning Man. So as visionary art reaches out more and more, I think the artist has to be discerning, to probe the imagination, to not feed images into a static genre definition. The artist has to incite awareness rather than just entertain or optically stimulate. And I think today's visionary artist has to bypass the well-worn fantasy motifs and new age cliches that may come with an inclusive vibe. Myths of the artist can be potent and valid aspects of the creative process, but I think also today's visionary artist must also be aware not to perpetuate these myths for complacent gratification, i.e. I'm a visionary artist, so I'm special or something. However, the hero myth is an enduring one and it's a potent one, and I think Alex Gray exemplifies this really well, and that's good. But perhaps the artist now can perhaps contemplate and call in wider mythic potentials, to consider an integrated role for the artist in human community and culture. But visionary art's significance is just one facet of a growing cultural awakening, a planetary awareness that incorporates arts, design, healing, sciences, permaculture, and open source technology, etc. And it's a paradigm that's based on sustainability, interconnectivity, and integral wisdom. Buckminster Fuller, the evolutionary architect and designer, said, "If the solution is not beautiful, I know it's wrong." And Eric Davis talked about visionary art offering a model for visionary design and solutions in design. And we all know that fine art ideas have very often been a precursor for design ideas. We can see the Paris Metro sign came from Aubrey Beardsley's Art Nouveau designs, for example. And design is taking the stuff of art and putting it into objects that have a practical application in society. So, in the idea of the vision questing, of engaging with visionary states through meditation or psychedelics and bringing that visionary information into the design process and circulating that potential back into life and culture in the form of sustainable technology and better functioning systems of energy. So, visionary states can fuel art, and they can also play an important role in creativity and therefore in creative solutions. We all know that Steve Jobs made creative breakthroughs for the Apple computer through the use of LSD. That's common knowledge. And Stanislav Grof, the leading light of psychedelic psychotherapy, observed that people that have undergone deep transpersonal experiences often develop deeper ecological awareness, compassion, and tolerance, a more interconnected worldview. And he also observed that people who have undergone these states often are more inclined towards activities that are critical for a sustainable future. So, today, humanity interfaces with an information network that's global. And it's rather like a global mind that has a wider capacity to reflect on the significance of the collective. And in this unique position, we have more access now to the culminated knowledge of our history, the gene, the DNA, etc. And we have more awareness of our place in history now. And in this time of crisis and ecological meltdown, we have to consider what direction humanity is heading. Einstein said, "A problem cannot be solved by the same consciousness that created it." Our materialistic culture is fueled by an ego-driven mindset. And this consciousness underlies our corporate world of domination, exploitation, and greed. And solutions that are conducive for our survival and development may be derived from more holistic and wider states of awareness. Irving Laszlo said that art is an element of culture, and culture is an element of the human community. And the human community needs consciousness. In regard to the evolution of today's consciousness, society needs art. And I'm going to finish with a quote by Ken Wilber that I think might stimulate us to bring in our greater possibilities, our higher potentials by engaging with the imaginal forces that I think intersect art and mind. I think the imagination actually traverses the spectrum of our experience through art and numinous experiences. And Ken Wilber says that the purpose of truly transcendent art is to express something that you are not yet, but that you can become. Thank you.